This is about the future of media, okay? So I want to start off with one question I think it's on a lot of our minds when it comes to the future of media. Shannon.
Yes.
Is it true that Cat Williams is coming back in January on Club Shay Shay?
There have been some conversations.
There's been some talk.
There's been some conversations.
Is he coming back? Come on, break some news out here.
That's on him. But we have been in conversation. We've had communications over the last couple of weeks. We're trying to make it an anniversary edition, but we have to get it going pretty soon because January the 3rd was when we released it. So that's going to be here before you know it, and you got the holidays. So that's all I got. But there is a possibility that could happen.
You heard it from the man himself. You probably read it on the blogs. I got one other question. Michelle, you here? Some of y'all know. Some of y'all know. Let's get down to business.
There might be somebody in here named Michelle, and she gonna be, oh, is that you?
On a serious note, we're going to get down to talking about the future of media. So great to have you here, Conal. Conal Byrne, CEO of iHeart Digital and Podcast. He's the person that all these deals, we're talking about Shannon Sharpe, we're talking about Stephen A. Smith, Will Ferrell, all these huge names that you see on iHeart Podcast. This is a gentleman that makes it happen. So I want to talk to you. How do you see the future of audience engagement when we're looking at traditional media versus this new world of digital media?
I think, first of all, and folks like Shannon pioneer this, audio, and specifically digital audio, but audio is so often underestimated in the world of media. You know, a third of all media consumption is audio. It's not sight, sound, and motion. It's just sound. And what's driven that in the last 5-10 years is podcasting. By the way, most of that audio consumption is still broadcast radio. But podcasting has brought it right to the front of all of our radars of like, whoa, we have a new mass reach medium on our hands. That just doesn't happen that often. Like, to have a mass reach medium happen and really take hold, you have to have technology, creators, and audiences all converge and decide, I like this medium. I like the way it tells a story. I like the way a creator like Shannon uses it. You're seeing that happen right before your eyes in podcasting. That's a big deal. That's a big deal in media. It's not often that a whole new way to tell a story comes along, and we have one.
Right. Shannon, you've been really a pioneer. You've been right on the vanguard of this new media that someone like Draymond Green calls it. The idea that I got a little beef with you because the people like me, you've been cutting us out. You and Ocho, you guys do a great job, but you don't have that third person leading it. So when we're talking about engagement, how are you looking at it when it comes to not only engaging the audience, but keeping their attention? Because a lot of people can make a lot of noise and attract the audience for one event, maybe two events, but sustaining that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, I think the thing is that you have to be educational, you have to be informative, and you have to be entertaining. Because people want to be entertained. They have enough stress in their life with their day-to-day, with their job. They don't want to hear you come in there and talk about, oh boy, poor me. So what we try to do, we try to make it lighthearted. We try to take serious situations and put a lighthearted spin on it, although realizing that some things require a little more seriousness to it. And I think what we've seen is that what we try to do, we try to stay ahead of the curve. We understand the audience is getting younger and younger. We try to and we don't go swing the pendulum too far one way or another. We understand the audience is, a lot of our audience is really young. We have a very diverse group. Nightcap, I think 40% of our audience are women.
Ladies, is that true? Ladies?
Sounds right.
Check this out. Club Shay Shay. 78% of our audience watch Club Shay Shay on their television. Wow. So it's almost like appointment viewing. Like you used to watch Martin, Living Single, Different World, all those shows like that. That's what Club Shay Shay has become. So we understand that. So we can see who's watching, how long they're consuming. On average, they watch about 43 minutes of Club Shay Shay, which is absurd for to hold someone's attention for that length of time.
I don't think Conal thinks it's absurd. I think Conal's like, I can monetize this.
But that just goes to show you, he understands that normally people, they watching 5-minute snippets, 6-minute snippets, but you're talking about 43 minutes. That's a really long time.
The extent to which, like to Shannon's point, like the extent to which podcast IP is driving what we consume, not just in podcasting, but on fast channels, on YouTube, in movie theaters, is still underestimated today. The storytellers are using this medium in such a creative, different way that it then has derivative manifestations here, there, and everywhere, which is pretty cool and still underestimated, I think.
So Conal, I want to come back to you about the monetization part. It is a world of new media. You mentioned terrestrial radio. It has a very defined format. You talk for a little bit, you play some music, you run some commercials. Podcasts work very differently. So there's a lot of people out here that probably have their own podcasts. We see them pop up every day. When you're looking at trying to monetize these podcasts and this future of media, what are you looking at? Is it about things like sponsorships and product placement, or is it something else?
Podcasting, simply put, has essentially two ways to monetize. The first is what I'll call the old school way, which is still awesome. I say that with great respect, and we still make decent revenue doing that, a lot of revenue doing that. And that is just traditional host-read endorsements, ads as we know it. The second way that podcasts make money is a little more technologically advanced. The thing that happened to podcasts a few years ago was you're now able to, from the center, dynamically insert ads across thousands of shows. Now, you may hear that and be like, that sounds like a lot of technological mumbo jumbo. Why does that matter? Well, because when you can do that, you can start thinking of a big audience pool of podcast listeners as audiences. So now you have two ways to monetize podcasts. If Shannon likes a particular brand, he could say, I'd love that brand to be a presenting sponsor of my show. If he doesn't want to do that, we can also say, well, what's the audience makeup of your show? Because there's probably brands that want to reach them. And we'll do that, obviously with your approval, but it's a whole new technological way to do it. That opened up podcasting big. 4 or 5 years ago, that's why you saw this inflection point in revenue in podcasting, because of this whole other avenue.
So we're talking about these different sources of revenue. There's also a personal branding aspect for you, Shannon. The products that we see on your program, we're going to associate with you going forward. For example, recently, I don't know if you're actually a gamer, but I saw you talking about Call of Duty. I'd never heard of Olipop until it was on your show. Olipop, excuse me. How does that work when it comes to the content, the sponsorships, and also your personal brand?
Well, I did a deal with BMW, and I was like, look, I've driven a BMW since 2001. It's like, oh, really? Which model? 760, which is the V12. They go back and pull it. He's right. He's driven a BMW since 2001. So it's a lot easier when you actually use the product, because I don't like being an ambassador. I mean, I drive a BMW, or I drink this, or I eat that, or I do this. And so it's a lot easier to sell. Because at the end of the day, when people look at me, I think the most thing they say is, this man is authentic. And that's what I'm saying. I'm selling you, look, I'm big on accountability. I'm big on responsibility. If I make a mistake, I'm going to go before the American people and I'm going to say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Now the greatest apology is change behavior. So you try not to repeat the same mistake twice. But I think the biggest thing for us when we're at Shay Shay Media is that we kind of, I think brands, sponsors, ads, I think when they come to us, there's like, yeah. Because I give them a list. My team has put together a list. Okay, these are the products that he used. This is where he banks. This is a credit card. This is what he flies. This is what it. Now, okay, let's see if we can go find a match.
So the word sounds like that you're really kind of leading us to is authenticity.
Yes. I'm not gonna, there have been things that I've turned down because it's just not me. And no amount of money would make it right for me.
Right. I'm about to sound like Osher. Hold up, slow down. Let me write it down. Conal, I want to come back over to you. How do you look at when it comes to sponsorships? Are there certain things that you don't want associated with the iHeart brand? Are there certain things that you want to lean in? And as we look at your podcast and other digital format, are we going to see, again, a change in the way that you do sponsorships, commercials, and things like that, especially with transformative tech like AI that can be much more targeted?
Yeah, a couple answers. The first is iHeartRadio reaches 91% of American adults a month. We are in every single advertising category. We reach every audience for those advertising categories. So we're careful, but we're mostly careful because the creators that we distribute, we want to make sure are comfortable in and around the brands that are in and around them. Shannon said it, like the thing we're fundamentally trading on is authenticity. We use a word in media sometimes, influencer marketing. What we're really talking about is companionship. That's when that really works. When an audience member, a listener, a viewer, whatever, actually feels like the creator that is giving them something, that's talking to them, that's on a video, whatever, is a friend, is a companion, everything changes. Suddenly trust kicks in, engagement is higher, and you have that thing called authenticity that brands need more than anything because it's how they tell their stories best. I think what got mixed up a lot in influencer marketing, which is mostly social media influencers over the last 10, 15 years, is authenticity, trust went down as brands spent more. And they weren't getting a return because like, this isn't working.
Right.
What you're seeing now specifically in podcasting is that kicking back in because there is such a deep trust and companionship between a listener and a podcast creator. AI comes along and you got to wonder like, well, how's this going to disrupt all this? You have a really good ecosystem here where you got listeners trusting creators and creators creating great content. I think honestly, AI does a lot of good for podcasting for the next 5, 10 years. Things that podcasting can't do on its own, like globalize our medium. Podcasting is largely a United States medium.
Right.
You can suddenly, and I mean literally within a year or two, truly globalize this medium around the world thanks to AI.
I mean, different languages?
Different languages.
Yes.
So quite literally, we're at a place where always with Shannon's approval, you can actually think about, well, do I want to take these shows and translate them to 10, 20 languages around the world? I can now. That's a pretty awesome inflection point to be at for a medium that's been largely American so far. So we'll see.
Right, a global audience, obviously, what every business is looking for.
You got it.
Shannon,
Yeah, when you talk about authenticity, I did a deal with Farmer's Dog, and it's like, we would like to encourage you a big pet owner. I was like, okay, sure. I said, now send me the food, because if my dogs don't eat it, what am I selling here?
Right.
Right.
It doesn't do me any good.
This is a guy that has his dog at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah.
So when you got your dog at the Thanksgiving table, it's got to be legit.
It's very, and my dogs eat it. So I'm not like if you say, okay, dog food, but if I put it down to my dogs and my dogs don't eat it, I'm not going to take your money.
Right.
I'm not. That's just not. I just can't in good conscience do that.
Conal, I want to come back to you about technology. You mentioned AI and how transformative it may be. What about things like virtual reality, augmented reality? Are we going to get to a day where it feels like Ocho and Shannon are sitting in my living room, or I can pour some Shayla Laportier virtually? Do I have goggles on? I mean, what's the next transition of all this?
I'll answer it in 2 ways. So as iHeart Media, very genuinely, we try to be where our audiences are. So that means we build pretty innovative, cool stuff sometimes. The easy example is about 3 years ago, we built a presence in Roblox and Fortnite called iHeartland, which was an amphitheater on those platforms where we would have concerts. So we get the metaverse, we are there, we are interested in it. What I am interested mostly about things like those kinds of platforms, what we're really searching for through them is shared experiences. We're in an on-demand medium. We're in an on-demand world. Streaming platforms we all watch, which are fantastic, but the thing we are losing is shared experiences. It's why sports drives such a premium in media.
Yep.
Because you still have this, I mean, I know this is obvious, but this ability for humans to share a thing and the next day talk about it, there is less of that than there used to be. That is going to be at a premium every hour that goes by, and there's less of it in the world. That's what I think is really happening with gaming, with metaverse platforms, and by the way, I hate to keep bringing it back to it, with broadcast radio. It's one of the last shared mediums in the world where the thing you hear, thousands of other people are hearing at the same time. That unifier, maybe now more than ever, is really important. That's how I understand technology.
And do you think that can transfer over to an AR platform or a VR platform?
I actually do. I don't know the inflection point that those platforms will hit. I know you have big companies like Google and Meta working real hard to make that a thing.
Right.
And I know it's not quite there yet at scale. But I think that's actually the goal, is not to be cheesy about it, but not to drive us apart. I think actually, genuinely, the goal of those platforms is to bring us together into shared experiences, which I respect.
So, Shannon, you mentioned this. The media landscape is changing dramatically, especially younger viewers. You mentioned a lot of your audience, they watch for about an hour at a time. 73% actually watch on their TV.
Yep.
But it's a younger generation.
Yes.
They see things differently. They see the world differently. How are you adapting your platforms and the way that you try to reach your audience with this shift happening?
Because you try to have a iShow Speed, try to have a Castanet, you try to have people on that resonate with your younger audience. They don't always just want to talk about a sport. Sometimes these influencers, man, these gamers, they have big followings, and sometimes they want to see them and want to hear them on your platform. And so, I've made a conscious decision, CJ and I've made a conscious decision to try to have more women on Club Shay Shay. We have a large women population that watch, and I think all the guests that we have on are very entertaining, but sometimes they want a gorilla or a Meg Thee Stallion or whomever we have on, and so Miss Pat, and so we try to have people on. And so I think that's the thing, is that you listen, you kind of watch, and we study the trend. We try to be in the curve or ahead of the curve. We never want to fall behind the curve, because if you fall behind it, you kind of get lost. And so we're obviously, I put a lot of pressure on my team, like, hey, we got to stay to the front. We've been handed this baton, and we have a sizable lead. Let's build on it.
Right. Conal, similar question for you. Obviously, you're with a publicly traded company. You're the CEO, again, of podcast and digital. I would imagine, we talked about Shopify being at its board meeting. That's a lot of the talks that you're going to have with your board. How do we keep the company going? How do we engage Gen Z people or Gen Y, whatever the next gen is going to be? A lot of people here have businesses where they're trying to engage with younger people. What is your strategy? What do you do with podcasts? And is there any ideas that you have that transfer to other lines of business for the audience out here?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, when I say iHeart reaches 91% of American adults a month, we reach about 87% of Gen Z a month. So our reach is also young reach. I think sometimes what happens in media is advertisers think that mass reach media companies like our own don't have that reach with younger audiences, that they have to go to a TikTok to get that reach, for example, and it's simply not accurate. So the first thing I try to do is say, look, these audiences that are young are here. There are 50, 60 million homes in the United States with an Alexa in them. The single biggest usage of Alexa is broadcast radio. The other two are weather and timers. This is the new radio device in your home. So first of all, I try to level set that. But look, I see the same appetite for companionship, for authentic content, for genuine creators in Gen Z audiences as I see in 45 plus. It really doesn't change. I think, if anything, coming out of this election cycle, we've all taken note that young people in the United States need companionship more than ever. There are different versions of mental health crises in our country that I believe content can help with.
Okay.
I believe creators can help with. And so when I think about a media company like ours that provides companionship, that provides authentic content, this rarity in media, I think about that a lot. We ran a research study recently because we're genuinely interested in what audiences are thinking and doing and wanting. 44% of American consumers, 44% of us, said they felt like the media ignored them, was not creating content for them, was not telling advertising stories for them. 44% of it. That's a surprising, startling stat. It's also kind of exciting. It's like, okay, what do we do?
Right.
How do we bridge this gap? No one else can do it. We have the controls, we have the platforms, we have the storytellers. How do we do it? So Those are the kind of thoughts that run through my head.
So with this generational shift, there's also a wealth shift. Younger people are going to inherit money. They're going to be soon the people that are high income earners. How do you walk that line between catering to and pandering? And is there a line there, or anytime the audience responds, is that just good engagement, or are there different tiers of engagement in your mind?
Absolutely. Listen, there is the most remarkable thing you'll see in media is an audience's allergy to disingenuousness, to fakeness. It is remarkable. Humans' ability to clock fakeness. That goes for 12-year-olds all the way up to the oldest age group that we distribute content for. It doesn't change. By the way, back to that AI question. Very interesting challenge. As AI gets more and more human in the content that it creates, humans also have a remarkable ability to clock fakeness in that as well. There's a thing called the uncanny valley, which is essentially humans' ability, almost genetic ability, to clock deepfakes. So without derailing into that, we have a deep-seated ability to know when something's real and authentic. We try to lead into that. So we try to be there for audiences because that's what they expect, and deliver the content that they demand, because the other stuff, it just doesn't work. So you'll end up canceling a show if you try it, to be very candid.
Shannon, what about for you? I mean, we love your shows. We love Nightcap because you and Ocho are yourselves. We love Club Shay Shay because you're being yourself and you seem genuinely interested. But at the same time, you mentioned your audience said we want to see more women. How do you walk that line between this is, we want to add more female engagement, but also having someone on that you want to have a conversation with, because you're not interviewing them, you're having a conversation.
Yes, and at the end of the day, we're not just going to have women just for the sake of having women. We want the women to be interesting. We want the women to have a story to tell. We want women excited about coming on and sharing their story. Sometimes you can just, like he said, is that we're just going to give the audience, the viewing and the listening audience, a lot of women. Well, they're going to like, these women are not interested. They ain't got no story to tell. Why am I watching? So we hear our audience. We try to give them what they want, but the same token, we still have to stay true to who and what we are. Because at the end of the day, that's what McDonald's sells: consistency. Most fast food restaurants sell consistency. A burger in Mexico tastes the same as one in Russia, the one in Turkey, and the one right here in America. So what we sell at Shay Shay Media with Club Shay Shay and Nightcap 520, Bubba Dub, is consistency. We want to, every time you turn us on, to know that you're going to get a great story. Somebody's going to be entertaining, somebody's going to be informative, somebody's going to be educational. And that's what Ocho and I try to give every night. Now, does it get hard? Yes, because we're on 5 nights a week. And so it kind of gets hard to try to find fresh stories that you can tell, things that you can resonate. But a lot of times that when we're dealing with stories, he and I both were professional athletes, and we try to lean into that and try to give the audience a inside look of what's going on into the locker room. Because a lot of these stories that are happening, they've happened with us before, but we didn't have social media. It didn't get out. A lot of the stuff that gets out now, it happened back then. Don't think that it didn't. It just didn't get out.
All right, we're running out of time, but one thing I've saw a lot here is I've met a lot of people that have their own podcasts, that may do some things on digital. A lot of people are interested in being in the media business. A rising trend has been entrepreneurship in the media business. Conal, I'm going to come to you. Whether it's Shannon, whether it's Pat McAfee, Stephen A. Smith, these are media personalities that want to own their platform and own their brand. As we're looking at that going forward, what direction is that going? Are we going to see more of that? Are we going to see big companies try to create different type of deals when it comes to that? How does that work?
Well, first of all, I totally embrace that. So there's 2 things that I recommend to every creator starting out, independent, unknown, just trying a thing. The first is pick a topic, a subject matter, a passion that you would be talking about if there were no microphone in the room. That you can't stop talking about. That at Thanksgiving dinner, they're like, please, not with that again. That's your topic. That's your podcast. And the second thing is, try it on your own for a year. Mostly try it on your own so you know you have the wherewithal to stick with the cadence, with the work. I mean, you can attest to this.
Yeah.
Stuff is not easy, especially to make it a job. So try it, and then and only then approach a big media company like ours to see if you can leapfrog 3, 4, 5 years of what you might have to do on your own. That's what we're good at, putting on a big platform to leapfrog a few years, and suddenly you're here where it might have taken you longer. That's my advice.
By the way, can I translate what Conal's trying to say, though? Everybody, don't come up to him afterwards and ask, how do I get a podcast? That's what he was trying to say. That's what he was trying to say. He said it
your words, not mine.
But it's a lot of work. You think about it. Ocho and I do Nightcap 5 nights a week. I have to tape, sometimes I tape 1 to 2 shows of Club Shay Shay. Right. And I have 2 shows of First Take a week. So think about how much that is. So Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. That's 5 days. Then I got Monday, Tuesday of First Take, and I'm flying to LA, I'm flying to Vegas, I'm flying to Atlanta, I'm flying all over the place to sit down and interview guests.
Right.
So it's a full-time job. Sometimes people want max money with minimal effort, and it just doesn't work like that. Right. Man, you work too hard, and then
hold on, write that down. Yeah. Write that one down.
And people like, man, when do you take time, bro? This is what I signed up for. You can't ask God to give you something and then complain about how much you put on your plate. Eat what he gave you.
We're pretty much out of time, but Unc, we got to ask you. I'm going to call him Unc now because I'm a big fan. What's next for 2025? So you told us basically Cat's coming up, right? Everybody, Cat's coming up in January.
I heard it.
Knock on whatever this is. What else for you? Reality show, movies, what's next?
No. Well, Nightcap is a reality show, actually. You know what? I thought about maybe, maybe game shows, maybe, something. I want to try my hand. Look, I think I've done pretty good digitally with Nightcap and Club Shay Shay. I kind of want to try my hand at something else.
Okay.
I'm not really big on in stepping out there. I kind of like to feel comfortable, but I think I'm comfortable enough to now to like, okay, I want to try something else and see what I can do.
We are going to all be waiting and watching to see what you do next. Shannon Sharpe, Conal Byrne from iHeart Media, CEO of Digital and Podcast. Thank you both.